So following the Superman movie and looking at the larger DCU, I wanted to present some theories following the movie, along with some of the newer information we have surrounding future projects for this new franchise. But starting with the more straightforward of the theories here, I think obviously going off of the movie's main villain, Lex Luthor, you likely are going to have a continuation of his character going forward, and we also know that his character is one of the major villains of the DC universe. But looking at the material we were given in terms of how Lex Luthor engages Superman, I think you have some promising signs of what his direction could be in the future, given that he had Ultraman, or a clone of Superman, being his physical body to counter Superman while he was the brains behind the whole operation. So I think this could likely lead to an instance where Lex Luthor takes on Superman himself, and this of course could be through the development of his super suit. And I think if this were the case, it could provide a tough matchup for Superman, since Lex was able to outmaneuver him. But in addition to that, I think you also have another aspect that Lex Luthor could develop in the future, which is the scenes we got of Lex engaging with the government and using his resources to turn their perspective as well as the public's perspective on Superman in a much more negative way. So I think if he was able to somehow get out of prison, and if again public opinion were to shift on Superman or superheroes in general, there likely could be a scenario where Lex Luthor does rise to power again. And we have seen this in several storylines with Lex Luthor becoming the president of the United States. So this is definitely an option that I think could be explored in the DCU, but I more likely see the super suit being a more plausible option given the plot. But going on to the next big theory surrounding the movie with Bizarro or Bizarro Superman, I think you likely have the option or setup that Ultraman didn't die by being sucked into the black hole or was sent to a temporary universe, and he's somehow able to make his way back into the DCU in the future. And I think this could be an interesting evolution of his character, and I think this is likely an option due to his intelligence not really being present, and this is ultimately due to the cloning process or his creation at the hands of Lex Luthor hindering his mental abilities, since he's really not able to make his own decisions and likely was rushed in this cloning process. And I think in addition to that, he could be transformed into much more of a Bizarro Superman if he was stuck in the black hole. We did see the negative effects that the prison in the Pocket Universe had, regardless of just the kryptonite from not having access to the yellow sun. So it's possible due to his living conditions that this greatly hinders his appearance. It is possible he could return and would be able to engage Superman. But going into some of the more deeper theories surrounding the movie, I also think Brainiac is a solid option for a future big bad for the DCU, and I think there's several ways to integrate him, starting with the message from Superman's parents, where the later half is revealed to be their intentions of Superman eventually ruling Earth. It is possible that that could have been Brainiac manipulating that message, and even though the message itself was physically real, it is possible that he was the brains behind that operation or somehow possessed Superman's parents and was using this to destroy both Superman's identity and the public perception of Superman on Earth. And I think Brainiac also is a solid option because there are several storylines where he is the one behind destroying the planet Krypton, so that also could tie into this universe's reason for the destruction of Krypton. And I also think in the long run that Brainiac could be a good option for a long-term villain, since the previous Justice League movie did feature Darkseid, and I think Darkseid would just be a little bit too similar to Thanos in some of his characteristics. So I think Brainiac would be a more unique option for the superhero genre. But going on to the next one, I think in regards to all these different options, I think a group of villains is another strong way to include a more unique villain option for the DCU going forward. Because I think in comparison to the MCU, you don't have a whole lot of development in relation to a full group opposing as the antagonist. You have little side plots of this, but I think if the Legion of Doom, for example, was the main antagonist, or as an organization served as the big bad for the Justice League, I think this could be a great way to both include a lot of villains from the DC source material, in addition to it really serving as a proper form of competition for the Justice League, since you have basically two groups going against each other rather than just one big strong villain going against a group of heroes. And I think this could tie into Lex Luthor's ambitions, so I think that's a great way to tie in a lot of these open loops presented in the first movie. But in terms of a group, a little bit more of a simpler option that could tie into some of the future projects is going the League of Assassins route. And looking at the opening crawl of Superman, you have the mention of metahumans coming to Earth roughly 300 years ago. So this could tie into the rough age of Ra's al Ghul. He likely could have developed the League of Assassins in the shadows. And I really think why this is a plausible option is it would be a great tie-in to the Brave and the Bold movie that will feature Damian Wayne, who is Ra's al Ghul's grandson. So I think you could have the introduction of the League of Assassins in the first Batman movie. And I think similar to the Legion of Doom idea, this could be another great option for including a lot of prominent members of the League of Assassins in this new universe. It could even tie into something like the Clayface movie, as you do have several iterations where Clayface joins the League of Assassins, or even have other storylines where Ra's al Ghul aligns with Vandal Savage. And I think even though the League of Assassins wouldn't necessarily be the permanent big bad for the Justice League, I do think they would be a solid option for the Chapter 1 antagonist for the DCU, or for the new Justice League here. And I think for the DCU, you have a ton of options for villains. And I think this is definitely one of the more underdeveloped aspects of the previous Justice League movie. So I'm interested to see what the future will hold for this. But feel free to let me know your thoughts on these theories, and I'll see you later.